potluck here in this room. Everyone comes. We have a change of officers. Right now, we have all the positions filled except secretary. We need someone to volunteer to join our board and be secretary. That would be really great. And then April 26th, we have Earth Day, celebration at Bayonet Farm, and we're going to get geared up and get volunteers to help with that. A lot of exciting things happening at the Township Committee. They have approved two community groups. One is a bicycle and pedestrian safety group, and the other is a financial advisory committee. And if you're interested in being on any one of these citizen boards, you can go onto the Township website and fill out an application form. And it's really very exciting now to see the Township moving in the direction of having representatives of the community participating in decision making. It really is next outgrowth of Citizens for Land Use, and we hope people will volunteer. But volunteer to be secretary for us first. Also, exciting things in Township, there is a plastic film recycling challenge. So I just was over at Town Hall getting the key to come here, and there are already all sorts of people putting plastic bags there, put plastic bags there, and eventually those plastic bags will be turned into a bench, plastic bench that can be put in the park. Also, the Township is doing second chance toys. So if you have plastic toys that are kind of new, you can donate them to the Township. And on the Township website is directions about how to do all these, so just go to the Township website. At CILU, we do have some sad news. One of our founding members, Bill McFarland, just passed away, and he was original member of the Township Board of Health and a member of the Bayshore Regional Watershed Council, and he was married for 61 years to Isabel McFarland, who was also a founding member of CILU, and we remember him fondly and feel very sad to have lost him. There is going to be a memorial service for him on March 29th at the Unitarian Church at 2 o'clock. That's a Sunday, March 29th. So that's sad to end with. So now I want to talk about this man that I first met when I was on the Homedale School Board, and we sat together for 6 years on the school board, and we agreed almost all the time. It was it was really so impressive. It was like, "Ha, what do you think?" He'd say, "Okay, Karen." He'd say, "Karen, what do you think?" "Okay, Pat." So then he ran for Township Committee, and then we stopped agreeing on everything. And then he went to on to becoming a freeholder. He's a really devoted public servant and gives a lot of time to the community and has lived in Homedale how many years?
Since 94, 26?
26 years, and we have to thank him for all that you've done, and now he's going to come and talk to us about what it means to be a freeholder and the role of a freeholder. So thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Kat. I have a big mouth, so I don't really need the... before I begin talking about freeholdership, I want to commend this group. I applaud the work you're doing in Homedale, most specifically recently with the gas regulator. Thank you, listen to the word. I couldn't be there. I had a freeholder meeting Thursday, and I did send a letter, and Francine was kind enough to read it. I will support Homedale any way I can. I'm going to try to get my other freeholders on board. I'm having a little bit of trouble with one of them who lives in an adjacent town, and she told me, well, if it doesn't go in Homedale, it's going to come in my town. So, and we don't want it either. But anyway.
Oh, is it an old town?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to get us to do a resolution within the next 2 meetings to adamantly oppose the gas regulation. And I was telling Jenny a number of months ago, well, you get older and you start to mellow out and you evolve. And when I ran 3 years ago for freeholder, my running mate, Lillian Berry, I'm sure you're familiar with Lillian. Lillian is an advocate of open space. She always has been, and she continues to be. And we had a lot of conversations. And I guess my eyes really opened in speaking with Lillian, just about open space in general, and how precious it is. And one thing she kept imploring, she says, Pat, once it's gone forever. And again, as you get a little bit older and you start to think about it. And it must have been about 8 or 9 months ago, I ran into a former resident of Homedale was active in this group, and was a proponent of open space. And I met at lunch one day. I went over to his table and I sat down with him and I said, you know, I should have listened to you guys 15 years ago. I said, because you're right. Everything you talked about, you're right. And I will support open space any way I can, not just in Homedale, but throughout Monmouth County. And I'll get into just quickly how many acres of open space Monmouth County has. We were number one, we were just surpassed by Burlington, which now moved us to number 2. But anyway, I mean this in all sincerity, I applaud you for the work you've done, and I am with you fighting forward for open space, for gas regulator, or anything else that you deem or we deem would be detrimental to Homedale and the county. So thank you. Okay, you know, when Jenny had called, I was kind of surprised that she called, number one, and number 2, I was really excited. Because you very rarely get to hear what a freeholder does, and where the term, you know, came from. 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to speak to a political science class at Brookdale, and it was only for a few minutes, and my fellow freeholders talk about it, and they really, you know, we always say, oh, it's like the mayor of the county. But what does that mean? What does the mayor of the county mean? Where did this term freeholder evolve from? So over the last number of months, I did, of course, some research. Of course, I get questioned or queried about that often enough. So what I did tonight, I figured I'd break it into 3 areas. How the term evolved, New Jersey's piece in the freeholdership, and what we do here in Monmouth County. So if I may, I'm going to go back to 1066 AD. All right? Listen, I'm not going every 100 years, I promise. You know, in 1066 AD, the British kings believed it was necessary to form an assemblage of higher clergy, of earls, of barons, and knights to sit as advisors and grant taxes, specifically for defense. So that's how this really all started. We come up to the 13th century, and many disputes started taking place because the landowners, the freemen, felt that this group was usurping any decision that they made, or they were abusing their position. So they said, you know what, we own this land, we want to have a say. So again, disputes started taking place, and this group of landowners were known as free men. And the disputes kept growing and became more frequent. And the landowners' influence kept growing. So the British Parliament said, you know, we got to do something with this. We've got to include these free men into our decision making. But they have to own their land free and clear. That was a strong stipulation. So freeman / freeholder is an old English term which denotes a person who owns land and he has complete control over it, okay? Home rule. Here's where it starts to get a little bit interesting. In the 17th century, when the British seized control of the area from the Dutch, which is New Jersey, now New Jersey, they divided into 2 provinces, East and West. The East Jersey, they divided into 2 provinces, East and West, with counties. And the East counties were Bergen, Middlesex, Essex, Monmouth, and Somerset. And the West counties were Burlington, Salem, Cape May, and Gloucester. Now, the counties were provincial administrators. They were units for judicial purposes only. It was only, you know, that's all they cared about, just for justice. Well, as this went on for a period of time, the West legislators said this is not enough. Okay, so the West legislators, the Western provincial, decided to establish county lines. Okay, and they needed to establish these county lines not just for judicial purposes, but also to include a sheriff and a clerk and other members of the hierarchy. And of course, not too many months later, the East Providence or counties followed. And in 1798, each county, okay, was to elect 2 freeholders, okay, 2 for each town. Okay. But over the years, and here we go into coming into modern times, over the years, the state kept taking liberties, and they kept tweaking this this 2 freeholders per town, and it was done for partisanship only. Okay. Now, this allowed some municipalities to elect freeholders, and it got out of control when Essex County, okay, had 40 freeholders. Okay. 2 from each town. They had 40 freeholders. Okay. And you know, honestly, that lasted for many years until the reforms of the 1960s, and that is the system that we use today. You know, so what do we know? We know that by the 17th century, the freeholders became well-known members of society, and they have to own their land free and clear. They became part of the decision makers. Okay. 2 days before the Declaration of Independence, New Jersey's first constitution was adopted. Okay. And it declared that a county representative must be worth 50 pounds and have a clear estate, okay, and reside in the county for which they live for 12 months in order to be a representative and to vote. Now, technically, okay, this declaration did not specifically exclude, and this, I'm bringing this up because something happened in February I was talking about, did not exclude women or black slaves, okay? But because the circumstances preventing the women and the black slaves from owning property, they were effectively barred. Okay. Last February, Assemblyman Robert Arth wanted to change the name of Freehold. Okay. With all the problems that are going on in New Jersey, this guy, that's what he's focused on, change the name of Freehold. But his reasoning was, he felt it was discriminatory against women and against blacks. But the Constitution never said they can't. The Constitution just said, you know, white men. Didn't say no blacks or women. But anyway, Art didn't get too far with his proposal, and it sort of fell by the wayside. Now, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that no other state in the Union has preserved and honored this historical word and its connections to the beginning of representative government. You know, in all of our 21 counties, there are 3,047 counties in the United States, and we are the only state that calls them freeholders. You know, they call them commissioners, and they call them selectmen, or they call them counselors, and there are many other names. But we are the only state in the Union that held on to that piece of history, which I think is important. And as an aside to all this, I've also become more involved in New Jersey's history and preserving things. So, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But it really means a lot. So, you know, a freeholder is an elected part-time legislator at the county government level. You know, we are elected to at-large terms for three years, and the terms are staggered. It's 3, 3, and 1. Okay, and the freeholders can. The Constitution states anywhere from 3 to 9. I don't think there are any counties that have 3 freeholders. I know there are 5 to 9. We here in Monmouth County are 5, and it all depends upon the population of the county, and that's how the number of freeholders are determined. Freeholders are the center of the legislative and administrative. We have legislative and administrative responsibilities. Now, and it's a dual role we play. Okay, as legislators, we draw up and adopt the budget. And in the role of the administrators, we're responsible for spending that money. Okay, so we draw it up and we spend it. That's our responsibility. You know, so that's now, which I find interesting. But anyway, all of the 21 counties, but Salem, have a county administrator. We like to do in Homeville. We have a county administrator, Terry O'Connor, who's been there a while. She's a very bright woman who really has her finger on the pulse of what's going on in Monmouth County, and I can't speak highly enough about Terry. So anyway, the administrators are appointed by the Board of Freeholders. Now, there are 5 counties in New Jersey that elect a county executive instead of having an administrator. Okay, and they're the largest counties: Essex, and Hudson, and Camden. They elect their executive who runs the county for them. Now, freeholder salaries range anywhere from $16,000 to $28,000. I can tell you here in Monmouth, we get $27,000. Maybe it's 27, I don't really know. There's nothing, there are no expense accounts, no cars, not Hudson or Essex. There's nothing. That's our salary. And that's pretty much it to that point. But it comes to a point in time where residents and people of New Jersey, specifically counties, say, when is enough enough? Okay, and if you've heard, you've been around from time to time, there are calls to abolish the freeholders. They did this in Connecticut about 60 years ago. I don't know if anybody's here from Connecticut, but they did it about 60 years ago. Connecticut abolished freeholders. Massachusetts and Rhode Island shortly followed. Okay, they felt it was just too expensive, and it was a needless duplication of services because you have your town, you have your mayor, your township committee, and then you have your state legislators. What do you need that body in between? So they abolished it, and they felt it would save them money. And the state and local governments took over the role that the freeholders would do. Back in the late 1990s, the early 2000s, one of our senators, who was a governor for a very short period of time, Don DeFrancesco, wanted to form a committee to study the effectiveness of county government. And he sponsored a bill that they would try to allocate government duties more effectively. Well, again, never got off the ground. Okay, the county government was originally formed to act as a regional government. Now, I talked about the East Jersey and West Jersey, and these counties that were more regions than they were specific counties. Back then too, you had lots of farms, and there were lots of land and rural farms, and that doesn't make sense anymore. You don't need the freeholders. Now, don't quote me on this, but that's you don't need, those regions are gone. Okay, do we really, if you say to yourself, do we really need 3 police forces, in New Jersey, and 3 of other departments? But one of the experts out of Rutgers University said New Jersey absolutely needs county government, unlike Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, because it has 567 municipalities. Okay, you need something between the municipal level and the state level. I would like to have some research done just to see the actual role of the freeholder and what it means if it was abolished. Okay. Constantly we get calls all the time. Wanting to help people out. Most of them are local issues that we don't really get involved in. The biggest thing that we're involved in now is and I know you're not familiar with this, the Glimmer Glass Bridge. The Glimmer Glass Bridge is a historical bridge that goes between Manasquan and Bellingham. And two residents of Manasquan got this petition with thousands of people from the state of New Jersey to preserve this bridge. Okay, and I'm working with, my freeholder buddy left, he's at Assemblyman now, but Jerry Schaffner and I met with this couple, and we agreed we need to preserve things. We're a young country. We keep doing away with this historical stuff and we have nothing. Why is Europe so popular? Think about it. So anyway, it's a fight with some of the other freeholders and some of the other people in the county to preserve this. And it was determined that It's a drawbridge. The mechanisms that work this bridge is the only thing that's historical, so we've been told. So, so replace the bridge and keep the mechanism. So we're trying to work things out with this couple, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. But that's really one of the major things that on my to-do list before I leave the freeholdership is to work with this couple and the thousands of people that signed this petition preserving this bridge and other areas of Monmouth County that I believe need to be preserved. Okay. So we know the history, how it started at 1066 AD. We know that New Jersey had a constitution 2 days before the Declaration of Independence, talking about how the freeholders would function in New Jersey. So what do? We here in Monmouth County and a number of the other counties. First of all, we have 2 meetings a month. We meet at 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. The 1 o'clock meeting is a public work session. Everything we're going to do at the 5 o'clock meeting is discussed openly at the public meeting with input from the public, of course. And then we'll go into executive after that, come back out at 5 o'clock and vote on whatever was discussed at 1 o'clock. We do that twice a month. We have one administrative meeting every month, the first Monday of the month. Again, there are 5 of us. We set policies for the operation of Monmouth County. We have 44 departments that we oversee. And in those 44 departments, there are over 200 divisions, plus the authorities, plus the commissions and boards that we oversee. We're granted by the state legislature to regulate county property, finance, affairs. We oversee 2,800 employees and 14 unions, okay? We have a budget of $449 million, which is $40 million less than it was in 2010. So we've cut the budget by $40 million in the past 9 years. We had 7 straight years of no tax increase. Last year our increase was 0.5%, and this year we're still discussing it, but it should be about the same. We're responsible for 980 bridges in the county, 1,000 miles of roads, 250 traffic lights, the Bay Shore Ferry Terminal, which unfortunately is my department. I don't know if you saw the news this past Friday. The ferry was coming back from Manhattan, the Waterways Ferry, and one of the engines went down on the ferry. And the winds were high, winds were strong, and the waves got high, and the waves started intruding the boat. And people screaming and all that, but at no time did the Coast Guard deem it unsafe. So of course Monday morning, my aide was inundated with phone calls regarding the ferry. But I tell you, the people that run the Bay Shore Ferry are very proactive to get right back. And any complaint, they get right to the residents, which is good, as we do. So we have the Bay Shore Ferry Terminal. We oversee 2 million square feet of public buildings and over 18,000 acres of open space. We have 43 parks and recreation areas. We have the largest county library system in New Jersey. Our population in Monmouth County we oversee is 635,000. There's 53 municipalities, which covers 302,000 acres. We also oversee the county colleges and high schools. Again, we are responsible for various departments. As I mentioned, I have Bay Shore Ferry. I have OEM. I have workforce development where we find jobs for people. Not only do we find jobs for people, we train people who are looking to get into the workforce, or people that are presently there and lost their job and looking to improve their skills. And we have job fairs twice a year. We get over 150 employees and roughly 800 people looking for jobs. And so that's been very successful. I mentioned OEM, purchasing. I have taken on purchasing. Fire department, fire marshal, among others. But we divided this all up. One of the things I guess we are, as a freeholder board, are most proud of is our shared services. Every town in Monmouth County has taken a advantage of our shared services. Okay? We have saved the towns hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know when I was here at Homedale, we used the county to pave roads instead of T&M. And I gotta tell you, we saved almost $1 million one year in road paving with the shared services. And it's important for us, also not just the shared service that we're very proud of, is to have a AAA bond rating, which we have, the only county in New Jersey, because of the Monmouth County Improvement Authority. We lend money. We don't lend money. The towns come to us. We can get their money at a cheaper rate because of the AAA bond rating. So which is good. So the towns and the taxpayers are saving money. So I will be open to any questions that you have. Again, I was excited to be here. I want to thank you for this because it opened my eyes to some things too. I didn't really delve back into the 13th century when I spoke to people about this, but this gave me an opportunity. So that's what we do. That's what the and the name I told you derived from, where it derived from, and what New Jersey's Constitution is. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
You mentioned about the shared services. Let's say they did away with this whole freeholder thing. What would happen to all of those coordination of shared services?
Well, see, and that's, the state and municipality would have to work on that. And I personally, I don't think you can do it because we're so large. Yeah. So, yeah.
You just said you had some kind of oversight over fire?
Fire Academy and the Fire Marshal's Office, yes. I
Okay,
understand that.
just fire marshals, there's no fire department at the county?
Oh, there is. It's the Fire Academy that I oversee. It's also, we assist towns in fires. So there's a big one, just recently, big house fire. So our fire department go and they assist they
have
assist.
fire trucks and everything?
Oh, yeah, they assist. And
You shoot a few times.
fire marshal. You know what, unfortunately, the Fire Academy it's in, I call it Walton Howell Township. It's on Route 33. So it's, it takes me like a half hour to get there. But the training is, I bring my grandchildren there twice a year. They do training for the new cadets, where they'll put a building on fire and you watch these guys training with the building where they put a car on fire. But it's really an interesting experience for anybody who's a lay person like me, who doesn't know anything about this fire stuff.
And do the new firemen from the municipalities?
They train there,
train
yes.
They all train?
Yes. You know what? I don't think, I'm trying to think of the graduations that I did. I am not sure anyone from Homedale was there.
Oh, so they don't have to, but it's available?
They have to train, but they might go somewhere else. But I don't know if Homedale has any new firemen. I don't know. But I'm trying to think because I speak at their graduations, which are twice a year, and I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I know this past year we didn't.
Randy,
I just don't remember.
do you know?
They're staggered. I know I'm scheduled to go in April, so I'll see you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, graduation's in probably June. Yes.
Will you be going to Howell?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, because, as it happened, this last month I was at a meeting at the Middlesex Training Academy, which is in Sayreville. And it was a big complex, and I guess it's a function that the county does to provide the training for all the municipal fire departments.
So
So
for
Homedale
everyone?
doesn't have its own training facility. And people would presumably go to Sayreville, or then maybe you could go to Howell.
Very few towns have their own training facilities. Okay, and there are regulations, as you know, you have to follow. How many hours you need to put in, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay?
So I grew up in Virginia, and in Virginia, the government is a county system. There are no towns. So it's 17 counties in the state, and the county I grew up in, Fairfax County, is 75 square miles, and it's all county government. It seems to be very efficient. Would you see any movement in New Jersey to ever abandon the town government and go to just county government?
No? Politics, I have a home in Florida, it's the same thing, there's no local there, it's all county don't see that, unfortunately, politics plays a major role in all of this.
And towns don't want to get up.
Now,
There might be more
towns don't want to give up
competition.
home rule. It's the same thing with regionalizing schools. I mean, listen, we were there. You know, I think it's time we regionalize. We save them a lot of money. But Holden's not gonna want to give up home rule. Or if, you know, Colts Neck's not gonna want to send their kids to Homedale to give up home rule. It's not gonna happen. You know, there's a small town in Monmouth County, Roosevelt. And I'm in charge of the county superintendent. And Roosevelt they're giving up their school district now. So I know Les Richardson County Superintendent is working with them. So that's probably the only one that I know of.
Not
I mean,
even
I
Lock,
do.
not even Lock Arbor?
Not even Lock Arbor. I do know some that should give up. I mean, quite honestly, when I retired from education in 2010, I started working for a company called the Middle States Association, where we evaluate schools around the world. And my territory is from Monmouth County through Albany, out to the Hamptons, and you know, I was in the Middle East and a number of other places evaluating schools. And one of the schools.
Is that gaining any traction? Because there's some consolidation he recommends in that.
It is. You know what? I don't know. There's so much infighting going on. I know some of our legislators here in Monmouth County, but I know some legislators that are supporting Sweeney's Path of Progress. And he had met with the freeholders and members of municipalities in Monmouth County, I think back in May. And I thought it was a great idea, to be honest, but
Could you tell us what it is?
I don't know if it's gonna get any traction, you know, so.
What is it?
Go ahead, Scott.
There's been an issue that the community's worked on Palmer Avenue that I think the county has played a pivotal role in getting it, beginning to address that. I've done videotapes on that showing the Middle Bridge on Middle Road, literally underwater. I know it's a county bridge because all the county engineers' names are on it, as well as T&M. I videotaped it. It helps for people to know who likes to take credit for building the bridge. This problem has been around, talking to local residents for, I've been in this town for 20 years, and it's always been a problem. Now with the issues of climate change, and we're very fortunate as a township, and you might be able to speak better on the county basis. So my question is two things. What can the county do to deal with chronic problems like Middle Road and the Wakecape overflowing its banks? And is the county looking aggressive? Is the county taking an initiative to look at global weather change and how we are susceptible to rising tides, and what we should do to mitigate those problems to preserve our quality of life and safety issues?
Okay. I will tell you that the county is very aggressive when it comes to the roads and the bridges and the flooding. You know, government moves slowly. That Middle Road, I was involved in that when I was here as a committeeman. It's finally, not Middle Road, Palmer Ave. It's finally completed. But it took forever. You know, you had Homedale getting involved, you had the county getting involved, you had, you know, the section that going east was Middletown, that's how the road was Middletown. So there was a lot of moving parts there, but that's finally completed. I will tell you that the engineering department is very aggressive when it comes to this. I cannot say that they actually spoke about global warming and the impact it'll have on Monmouth County, because that's not my department. They very well might have been. And knowing the players there, Joe Attore is really on top of this game. And the most important thing that I see with the county is that the departments work collaboratively. So the OEM coordinator, you know, I'm sure he's talking with Joe Attore about some of those issues. But, you know.
Well, I know Joe knows because I called him myself.
Okay. So that then, you know, that he knows, and I'm sure he's addressing it the best he can. You know, I know Joe, and believe me, there's nobody better to handle that than Joe or Mike Overgard on the OEM end of it. But again, it's not my department, and I don't meet with them. I just, you know, hear when we get our.
So what I'm looking for, since you're a homeboy, so to speak.
Yeah, a homeboy.
Yeah, a homeboy, and this problem, I mean, it's not a new problem, but, and by the way, I mean, I'll talk personally, I literally live on, as far as away from that area as possible, but I think something's wrong, that these people have been suffering for 20 years. You know, the bridge was built, it's a wash multiple times.
The one on Middle Road.
Yeah, the
But
middle
that was
bridge.
redone
I know.
10 years ago, maybe less.
Yeah.
And what, it's still,
The
Still
water
floods.
runs, the water runs right over the top of it. The road is shut down.
I know.
And by the way-
Well, the problem on Palmer Avenue, so I was involved in this when I was a freeholder, was caused by the debris that was building up in the stream, so the water wasn't flowing freely. So they had to snag that stream, but then they had to get the DEP involved, which takes forever. So I'm wondering, and I don't know, I'm just guessing now, if that flooding over that Middle Road Bridge is caused by the debris that's built up, and because that hasn't been de-snagged all the way through. I don't know. But
So Rutgers
I will, go ahead.
Rutgers is doing a multi-year study right now on the Waycake. The silt and the debris that's in the stream, that's all upstream to the Middle Bridge. When you see Middle Bridge and the deltas that are in front of it, I'm not a civil engineer. It doesn't take anybody with great foresight to realize, hey, it's clogged. Someone has
Yeah, I
to dig
know.
out the stuff, but plus the bridge itself, because how it was built or how it's got filled up, I mean, it's, you know, they gotta call it a rooter man to dig it out and to address the problem. I mean, it's not a difficult problem. I also know that, because I spoke to the homeowner there, and he happened to be into heavy equipment, and before they allowed him to build there, he actually dredged the area, okay? His property is awash. I mean, there's something wrong when the county and the township hasn't addressed a recurring problem.
I can tell you, the DEP and the state DEP had to get involved in that, and that's where the holdup was there, and it still very well might be. I know that the county and the town were working diligently, but they couldn't do anything because of DEP.
Can we put pressure,
Well, we can, and I'm gonna take this actually back, and it's good information, and, you know, I'm gonna talk to Joe Ator and see where that's at, and, you know, talk to Tom Arnone, who's the liaison with that department, and see if we can do that.
So,
And see, you know, we gotta get our state election, you gotta get Declan O'Scanlan.
so at the same
gotta get Jerry
time,
Schaffenberg.
the affordable housing proposals are going in right down the road from there. You know, it's like, you know, it just bothers me that, you know, we're trying to do the right thing for people that need assistance, but we're putting them in an area that I wouldn't wanna live in, okay? I wouldn't build a home there. I mean, it's just, you know, quality of life.
I'm not sure that's the right place. Not that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
opposed
a
to all that
different
either.
flavor of the same
Got
issue.
you. I'll answer your question. Rick.
Yeah, related to the flooding in that area with the Mahoris and the Waycake. I mean, what you talked about is the municipality working together with the county. Then the question here is, to what extent is the county able or not able to work with the state? In that particular area, there's also bridges at 35 and at 36. Both of them have been problematic. In the case of the one on 35, which is sort of near Target, in between there, between the TD
Right.
Bank and there, that in the past year has flooded and overflowed to the extent that there's a couple of nearby small businesses. They've had their dumpsters float away and go into the culvert under 35. And they had to hand push the dumpsters out. And so the
It's the defendant.
people went to the state and they couldn't get, this is a DOT business, not DEP, and they couldn't get the DOT to agree to clean that out.
Now, what's exasperated
So
the
it's,
problem is Middletown just tore down all the trees south of that road, okay? And of course, you know where the water's gonna be running into. So they kind of completely missed the whole problem. And then this goes back to the reason why we're so passionate about open space is because with the removal of the trees and the building of more impervious surfaces, well, guess what's gonna happen? I mean, again, you don't have to be a civil engineer, realize
No, where that water
we're gonna
goes.
have a bigger problem here. And again, they're doing this in an area like, and then we know that there's already problematic. So here again, you know, it's Homedale, it's Middletown, and we're hoping the county can step in and use their powers of persuasion to get the communities to work together, and the state to say, hey, you know, you're not going down the right path here.
Yeah, I will absolutely bring this back, I promise to,
Yeah, because the
The town
preliminary
manager.
report from Rutgers is that the problem was due to
Overbuilding.
overbuilding in the older residential areas, where areas that were built 30 and 40, 50 years ago, before the current stormwater regs were put into place, don't have detention basins, don't have, et cetera, and then this just goes downstream, and once the area is built, to come and put those structures in, don't work.
Talking about Galloping Hill Circle.
For example, yeah. The higher elevation areas which are fully developed, and now how do you retrofit stormwater management? It's tough.
yeah, it's out of my league. You know,
Yeah.
believe me.
You mentioned earlier that you are, or the county is concerned with X number of bridges.
We have 980 bridges, yes.
How many of them need to be replaced? So,
It's on a rotating basis. They, you know, they evaluate them all the time by our engineering staff.
because that seems like a gigantic number.
Yeah, it is, it's a lot of bridges, yeah. But you know, every meeting, I might be exaggerating, we seem to be approving, you know, money for, you know, the repair of this bridge or that bridge or what have you.
I mean, if you got 1,000 of them, you're gonna have to do.
Yeah, it's got,
Per year.
yeah, again, we're really proactive, our engineering department, our road department,
And is the road department able to keep up with paving the streets under its control fast
Yeah.
enough that you're not getting behind the eight ball? Because I know Ed Droberg said that the streets last something like 12 years or something, so you have to do,
Well, we, you
8%
know,
of
we
them every
only do,
year?
the county only does the streets that the town says, you know, I want Lonely Drive done, I want Rainbow Road done, you know. So it's up to the township to tell the
no, because the county.
county roads,
the
we're
county
on top
roads,
of.
You're on
We're on top of those, yeah. You know, people calling about Route 34. Well, Route 34 is a state road. It's a mess. You know, it's a state road. You know, so you gotta get, your state legislators involved. It's not us.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
you know, we have our problems with our town roads, because I think Ed has said that we're falling behind because Homedale keeps building more subdivisions and putting more roads in, which means that there's more roads that have to be fixed on a cycle. I mean, our road has never been fixed since 1980 when they built it. Not a pothole has been fixed since 1980. So people drive slower on our street.
I know that there was a, Homedale had a rotating plan.
Yeah,
They're behind.
they're behind.
Is Homedale
It's a
Road
consolidation of stuff.
Homedale Road's county.
in the county? Oh, that's half
The,
paid.
schools.
They keep putting gas lines down the middle of it and making it bumpity.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much. Very important. I didn't think I was going to get such a great history lesson.
Me neither.
So, everybody, just remember, next meeting, month from now, March 16th, we're going to learn about driving tomorrow, sustainable transportation. Dr. Warren Gifford is going to come speak to us. April 3rd, we have our potluck, and April 26th, Earth Day, Bayonet Farm. Everyone's going to come and get ready and have a good time and make sandwiches. And so, please, oh, I got one thing to say. So when this afternoon, all of a sudden I was, putting together notes for the meeting, and I thought, oh, refreshments. Oh, how do we do that? And so I called Jenny, and Jenny was like, I got it, Karen. That's what I do. Take care of these things. It's like magic. So Jenny Blumenthal, thank you so much for magically always stuff
You
here.
don't need it tonight, you get it next month.
Yeah, she recycled it all.
It goes in the freezer.
So anyway, thank you, Jenny, for your
You're very
magic.
welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Reuse,
Say
repurpose.
Yeah.
recycle. Yeah.
Is that gaining any traction? Because there's some consolidation he recommends in that.
It is. You know what? I don't know. There's so much infighting going on. I know some of our not our legislators here in Monmouth County, but I know some legislators that are supporting Sweeney's path of progress. And he had met with the freeholders and members of municipalities in Monmouth County, I think back in May. And I thought it was a great idea, to be honest, but
Could you tell us what it is?
I don't know if it's going to get any traction. You know? So,
What is it?
all right. Go ahead, Scott.
There's been an issue that the community's worked on Palmer Avenue that I think the county's played a pivotal role in getting it, beginning to address that. I've done videotapes on that showing the Middle Bridge on Middle Road, literally underwater. I know it's a county bridge because all the county engineers' names are on it, as well as T&M. I videotaped it. It helps for people to know who likes to take credit for building the bridge. This problem has been around, talking to local residents for, I've been in this town for 20 years, and it's always been a problem. Now with the issues of climate change, and we're very fortunate as a township, and you might be able to speak better on the county basis. So my question is two things. What can the county do to deal with chronic problems like Middle Road and the Wakecape overflowing its banks? And is the county looking aggressive? Is the county taking an initiative to look at global weather change and how we are susceptible to rising tides, and what we should do to mitigate those problems to preserve our quality of life and safety issues?
Okay. I will tell you that the county is very aggressive when it comes to the roads and the bridges and the flooding. You know, government moves slowly. That Middle Road, I was involved in that when I was here as a committeeman. It's finally, not Middle Road, Palmer Avenue. It's finally completed. But it took forever. You know, you had Homedale getting involved, you had the county getting involved, you had, you know, the section up, the going east was Middletown, that's all the road was Middletown. So there was a lot of moving parts there, but that's finally completed. I will tell you that the engineering department is very aggressive when it comes to this. I cannot say that they've actually spoke about global warming and the impact it will have on Monmouth County, because that's not my department. They very well might have been. And knowing the players there, Joe Ator is really on top of this game. And the most important thing that I see with the county is that the departments work collaboratively. So the OEM coordinator, you know, I'm sure he's talking with Joe Ator about some of those issues. But, you know,
Well, I know Joe knows because I called him myself.
okay. So that then, you know, that he knows, and I'm sure he's addressing it the best he can. You know, I know Joe, and believe me, there's nobody better to handle that than Joe or Mike Overgard on the OEM end of it. But again, it's not my department, and I don't meet with them. I just, you know, hear when we get our.
So what I'm looking for, since you're a homeboy, so to speak.
Yeah, a homeboy.
You're a homeboy, and this problem, I mean, it's not a new problem, but, and by the way, I mean, I'll talk personally, I literally live on, as far as away from that area as possible, but I think something's wrong, that these people have been suffering for 20 years. You know, the bridge was built, it's a wash multiple times.
The one on Middle Road.
Yeah, the
But
Middle
that was
Bridge.
redone
I know.
10 years ago, maybe less.
Yeah.
And what? It's still.
The water runs right over the top of it. The road is shut down.
I know.
And by the way.
Well, the problem on Palmer Avenue, so I was involved in this when I was a freeholder, was caused by the debris that was building up in the stream, so the water wasn't flowing freely. So they had to snag that stream, but then you had to get the DEP involved, which takes forever. So I'm wondering, and I don't know, I'm just guessing now, if that flooding over that Middle Road Bridge is caused by the debris that's built up, because that hasn't been de-snagged all the way through. I don't know. But
So Rutgers is-
I will, go ahead.
Rutgers is doing a multi-year study right now on the Wakecape the silt and the debris that's in the stream, that's all upstream to the Middle Bridge. When you see Middle Bridge and the deltas that are in front of it, I'm not a civil engineer. It doesn't take anybody with great foresight to realize, hey, it's clogged. So it has
Yeah,
to
I
dig
know.
out the stuff, but plus the bridge itself, because how it was built and how it's got filled up, I mean, it's, you know, they gotta call it a rudiment to dig it out and to address the problem. I mean, it's not a difficult problem. I also know that, because I spoke to the homeowner there, and he happened to be into heavy equipment, and before they allowed him to build there, he actually dredged the area, okay? His property is awash. I mean, there's something wrong when the county and the township hasn't addressed a recurring problem.
I can tell you, the DEP and the state DEP had to get involved in that, and that's where the holdup was there, and it still very well might be. I know that the county and the town were working diligently, but they couldn't do anything because of DEP.
Can we put pressure,
Well, we can, and I'm gonna take this actually back, and it's good information, and, you know, I'm gonna talk to Joe Ator and see where that's at, and, you know, talk to Tom Arnone, who's the liaison to that department, and see what we can do about it.
So,
And see, you know, we gotta get our state legislature, you gotta get Declan O'Scanlan.
so at the same
and get Jerry
time,
Schaffenberg.
the affordable housing proposals are going in right down the road from there. You know, it's like, you know, it just bothers me that, you know, we're trying to do the right thing for people that need assistance, but we're putting them in an area that I wouldn't wanna live in, okay? I wouldn't build a home there. I mean, it's just, you know, quality of life.
I'm not sure that's the right place. I'm opposed to all
A
that
different
anyway.
flavor of the same
Thank
issue.
you. And I'll answer your question later.
Yeah, related to the flooding in that area with the Mahoris and the Wakeake. I mean, what you've talked about is the municipality working together with the county. My question here is, to what extent is the county able or not able to work with the state? In that particular area, there's also bridges at 35 and at 36. Both of them have been problematic. In the case of the one on 35, which is sort of near Target, in between there, between the Kitty
Right.
Bank and there, that in the past year has flooded and overflowed to the extent that there's a couple of nearby small businesses. They've had their dumpsters float away and go into the culvert under 35. And they had to hand push the dumpsters out. And so the
It's the veterinarian.
people went to
can't
the
walk.
state and they couldn't get, this is a DOT business, not DEP. And they couldn't get the DOT to agree to clean that out.
Now, what's exasperated
So
the
it's,
problem is Middletown just tore down all the trees south of that road, okay? And of course, you know where the water's gonna be running to. So they kind of completely missed the whole problem. And then this goes back to the reason why we're so passionate about open space is because with the removal of the trees and the building of more impervious surfaces, well, guess what's gonna happen? I mean, again, you don't have to be a civil engineer to realize
Know where that water
we're gonna
goes.
have a bigger problem here. And again, we're doing this in an area like, and then we know that there's already problematic. So here again, you know, it's Homedale, it's Middletown, and we're hoping the county can step in and use their powers of persuasion to get the communities to work together, and the state to say, hey, you know, you're not going down the right path here.
Yeah, I will absolutely bring this back, I promise to,
Yeah, because the
Tom and-
preliminary report from Rutgers is that the problem was due to
Overbuilding.
overbuilding in the older residential areas, where areas that were built 30 and 40, 50 years ago, before the current stormwater regs were put in place, don't have detention basins, don't have, et cetera, and then this just goes downstream, and once the area is built, to come and put those structures in, don't work.
Talking about Galloping Hill Circle.
For example, yeah, the higher elevation areas which are fully developed, and how do you retrofit stormwater management? It's tough.
yeah, it's out of my league. You know,
Yeah.
believe me.
You mentioned earlier that you are, or the county is concerned with X number of bridges.
We have 980 bridges, yes.
How many of them need to be replaced? So,
It's on a rotating basis. They, they evaluate it all the time by our engineering staff.
because that seems like a gigantic number.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of bridges, yeah. But every meeting, I might be exaggerating, we seem to be approving, money for, the repair of this bridge or that bridge or what have you.
I mean, if you got 1,000, I mean, you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, it's got,
Per year.
yeah. Again, we're really proactive. Our engineering department, our road department,
And is the road department able to keep up with paving the streets under its control fast
Yeah.
enough that you're not getting behind the eight ball? Because I know Ed Broberg said that the streets last something like 12 years or something, so you have to do,
Well,
8% of
we
them every
only
year?
do, the county only does the streets that the town says, I want Willoughby Drive done, I want Rainbow Road done, So it's up to the township to tell the
no, but the county.
county roads,
the
we're on
county
top
roads,
of.
You're on
We're on
top
top of those, yeah. People calling about Route 34. Well, Route 34 is a state road. It's a mess. It's a state road. So you gotta get your state legislators involved. It's not us.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
we have our problems with our town roads, because I think Ed has said that we're falling behind because Homedale keeps building more subdivisions and putting more roads in, which means that there's more roads that have to be fixed on a cycle. I mean, our road's never been fixed since 1980 when they built it. Not a pothole has been fixed since 1980. So people drive slower on our street because.
I know that there was Homedale had a rotating plan.
Yeah,
They're behind.
they're behind.
Is Homedale
It's a
Road
consolidation of stuff.
Homedale Road's county.
as a county? Oh, that's half paid.
The schools.
They keep putting gas lines down the middle of it and making it bumpity.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very, very